They're the biggest stars of the movies, but they rarely get the attention they deserve until now. We're talking about Best Directors here on Screen Junkies News. Today's episode of Screen Junkies News is brought to you by the Un-carrier, introducing T-Mobile One. All unlimited, all in. Hey everyone, I'm Alicia Malone. You're watching Screen Junkies News and we are talking about the Oscars. Elbow dance, elbow dance. I'm here with the lovely Roth Cornet.
Oh, you're the best.
You're lovely.
The best. You're lovely and you're an Oscar expert, which is exciting because I think that we're going to be helping people win their Oscar pools. What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, I've had people ask me already on Twitter, like, can you help me? There was one girl that I helped last year and she won $50.
$50? Did you get a cut?
Yeah, no, I should have. But I just took the glory for myself. So we're going to help you in the director category. Today we're talking about the best directors. Let's run through the nominees for this year. You've got Denis Villeneuve with Arrival, Mel Gibson with Hacksaw Ridge, Damien Chazelle for La La Land, Kenneth Lonergan for Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight for Barry Jenkins. Now, you just saw before the picture of Damien Chazelle holding his DGA, his Director Guild Award. And when you're talking about directors, you definitely look at the DGA as the predictor in this category. So, Roth, are you thinking that he could win another one?
Oh, yeah. I think this is one of the categories that I feel I would be shocked if it goes another way, to be honest with you. I mean, which is not to say that these other directors aren't deserving, because they absolutely are. Damien Chazelle has won the DGA, the BAFTA, the Golden Globe. He's steam training all the way. La La Land has the most nominations this year. It's on a track to win Best Picture, which is the only reason that I think it could go a different way with Damien Chazelle, but I don't think ultimately it will. I think it'll go to him.
If it was going to go a different way, what would you think?
Barry Jenkins.
Barry
for
Jenkins,
Moonlight.
yeah. And Barry Jenkins, I mean, he is a young director. This is like his first feature film that's gotten this much recognition. I love his personal story that he volunteered at the Telluride Film Festival for years, doing things like the Q&As on stage. And one of his Q&As was with Dee Dee Gardner from Plan B. And she was so impressed with him that she said, what projects are you working on? And he said, oh, I've got a couple. He mentioned Moonlight. And she was keen on that. And then he got to screen it. And I saw it at the Telluride Film Festival, and it was such a homecoming for him and an incredible experience. But I do think it will be Damien Chazelle.
Do you know what's interesting about that as you're telling this story? And that is fascinating to me, because it's almost like Barry Jenkins' real life experience mirrors a little bit sort of the fantasy version of that in La La Land, which is that you work for years, you're sort of the fools who dreams, you don't give up.
He submitted,
right?
I can't remember how many films, but he said he submitted films constantly to film festivals, and he would always get rejected.
And he just kept trudging along and refining his craft and having all that raw talent, but not giving up.
Yes.
And look, now he's an Oscar-nominated director. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
It is very amazing. I think Damien Chazelle, he's another one who's such a young talent. He has been working hard to make movies, but no one really knew him till Whiplash. That was his first major film release. Before that, he did Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, which is a nice black and white musical, more closely tied to La La Land. But I think after Whiplash, people started being like, who is this guy who has this distinct style about him? And the two movies are so different, but very similar at the same time, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, Whiplash and La La Land.
Yes.
I think that what's amazing to me about him as a director, and why I'm so excited to see what he does next, because I loved Whiplash. That was maybe my favorite movie that year. And
Yeah, me too.
They are thematically so similar in terms of what does it really take to commit to being an artist.
To get your dreams.
It's not, to me, it's not even necessarily, I don't even think it's just get your dreams. Like, I sort of hate that it becomes a little reductive in terms of get your dreams means become a movie star.
Well,
for her.
Yeah.
Because for him, for Ryan Gosling's character, which is what reminds me a little more of Whiplash, it's really just to live your life as an artist.
That's what I mean when get your dreams. And And I think that
What's your dream?
in terms of like, what's your dream? It's like success is relative.
Yes.
What does it mean to be successful? It's whatever goals you set for yourself. So it could be to be a movie star, or it could be to play jazz for a living. Like it could be whatever it could be to make a movie.
It could be to make a movie. It could be
to get an Oscar.
The best like play jazz as a drummer and be the very best that you possibly can be, to push yourself harder than you thought you could.
And that's why his films are so relatable, even if you are not involved with jazz or acting. Yeah. You can still definitely get into that.
Well, I didn't mean to argue with your police work there, Alicia. It seems like we're on the same page about what it means to get your dreams.
We are. We're on the same page, and I'm living my dream right now because I'm talking about directors and Oscars, which is so much fun.
Is this your favorite category?
I think so, because like I said at the top, they are the biggest stars of the film. They're the heart and soul of the movie. They are the ones that at a press junket I get so excited to talk to, because they have the most passion for it. It's something that they've been wanting to make for a long time. I know La La Land, it took, 6 or 7 years before that film was able to be made. You've got someone like Kenneth Lonergan, who is a brilliant writer and a brilliant director. And for him to finally get this recognition for a film like Manchester by the Sea, which shows how seasoned he is, how much in command he is of his craft, just looking at the way the film is structured, let alone the way it's shot and the way he directed those performances.
Yeah, it's interesting because Kenneth Lonergan was, and I know you, is also a playwright, right?
Yeah.
So he is, and he wrote Manchester by the Sea, which is a beautifully written script, no surprise. He did You Can Count on Me, which was an indie that had some success. And then it took him, he did a film called Margaret, which not a lot of people have seen. I love this movie. It's 3 hours. It is a commitment. It went through heck in terms of a lawsuit. It took 6 years to release this film. And it really kind of put, I think, Kenneth Lonergan behind in terms of his film career. Manchester by the Sea is one of my favorite movies this year.
Yep.
I think it is extraordinarily well directed. It is a film that I think it's easy to say, oh, Moonlight or La La Land are far more cinematic. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I think that they are all equally cinematic. They're just different. Some of those shots are paintings in and of themselves. They tell an entire story just in the frame. I love the cinematography in Moonlight, which is utilized to tell the story as well. 3 very distinct film stock looks to capture the 3 eras. And La La Land obviously is just harkening back to all the rich colors of Technicolor.
CinemaScope.
But you cannot count out the direction in Manchester by the Sea, especially as you say, Alicia, of those performances, which are really what make that movie.
Yeah, and they have to be purposely subtle. Especially Casey Affleck, he has to hold his grief in and not be outwardly so emotional, which I thought was actually made it a lot stronger and more realistic.
Directors are my favorite to talk to also.
Yes, and also I would say that, having spoken with most of these directors, all of them now, actually, I've interviewed them all, and Barry Jenkins is a huge film nerd. He can quote foreign films and art house movies. He has a huge Criterion collection at home, and I love that Damien Chazelle is fluent in classic movies. And I love a director that really speaks the film language, and most of them are really genuine film lovers, where you don't always find that with actors.
You don't, and I mean, it's a different craft. I mean, I think that people are sort of nerderly about the things that they are. Like, you probably talk to an actor, and they'll know a ton about Stanislavski, and they'll know what, sort of...
They don't necessarily watch, Marlon Brando or anything like that. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but these are also movies that are making, particularly La La Land, that are referencing other films.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, Moonlight, Wong Kar-wai movies we were talking about before. So getting on to the poll results, because we asked you guys on Facebook, who do you think is going to win Best Director? And the winner was, disagreeing with us, Denis Villeneuve for Arrival got the most votes, followed by Damien Chazelle for La La Land, Mel Gibson for Hacksaw Ridge, Moonlight with Barry Jenkins, Manchester by the Sea with Kenneth Lonergan. So when it comes to Arrival, I mean, Denis Villeneuve is someone that I think will be studied in film class because every film he does is a masterpiece. What do you think about Mel Gibson and Hacksaw Ridge?
Well, I want to talk about Denis Villeneuve first. I think that in terms of, I love Arrival, and we talked about this previously, previously when we were talking about Best Actress, where Amy Adams did not get a nomination. This remains one of my favorite movies of this year. Denis Villeneuve is certainly one of our finest directors, young, in terms of new, like he doesn't have a huge backlog of films that he's made, but certainly everyone is interesting. Everyone has a very distinct tone. He has a real voice.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see his next film, but unlike, what's really crazy to me is unlike Damien Chazelle, who I think has a very nimble directorial style where you can still feel that it's him, but they're very different films. Denis Villeneuve, I think that you watch it and you get that that's one of his movies.
Yeah, different genres, but the same feel.
Yeah, very distinct style,
Yeah.
right? And he's glorious and wonderful, and I understand why people are advocating for him. But look, he's got, like we said, Chazelle has already taken so many of the awards to date.
I think it's only a matter of time for Denis before he wins. Mel Gibson, Hacksaw Ridge, I know you're a big fan of the action scenes.
I
in the
do
film.
like them, yeah. I
Very
like the
well
war
directed.
sequences.
Yeah, it's lots of slow motion violence in there. Well, we looked at some of the comments on our Facebook poll, and Alexander Robinson said one that I found really interesting, which is about Damien Chazelle, and saying that as much as I adore Arrival, the opening sequence alone is worth Best Director. And he says he's talking about the opening sequence of La La Land. The opening sequence of La La Land is a great example of something that Damien Chazelle pulled off so well. It does feel different from the rest of the movie, but he shut down a really busy freeway that leads from LA airport into downtown
Thanks
for 3
for that.
days. 3 days. I didn't even notice. I wish I drove past at that point and saw people dancing on top of cars. That would be amazing. But to pull off that insanely choreographed sequence is a feat within itself. There has been backlash towards La La Land, with people saying it's been up for 14 nominations. Does it deserve that many? Same with Damien Chazelle, people saying, but it's just like a sweet movie. You know, does it deserve Best Director? I say absolutely. To bring back the musical, to make it modern, to tip your hat to all the classic films. And I did a video on my YouTube, which is like all the Easter eggs that are involved. There's the tiniest little things in the background that is referencing a classic film, a foreign film, something that he took direct influence from. But then again, it is his own style too. I think it was a feat within itself.
You know, it's funny because I also really like La La Land a lot. So
And the long takes of the dance sequences.
Yeah, and you and I share a love of classic film, and I love old musicals, and I grew up on those, and they're kind of like embedded in my DNA. Watching those films as a child is ultimately why I went to film school and moved to Los Angeles and went after my dream.
It makes LA so beautiful.
But there is an interesting argument to be made about a film that is continuously, and this is not one we have to have right here, that is spending a lot of its time pointing out other films, you know what I mean? Which is an interesting argument to me. Again, Moonlight, like you say, which I loved Manchester by the Sea when I saw it in January at Sundance last year. I thought it was going to remain my favorite film of the year, the entire year. It did until I saw Moonlight, which they're neck and neck for me. So Tomas Madero says Moonlight, period, on our Facebook page. And you know what? I agree. Like full stop. Like this film, and to your point, it does sort of feel a little bit like Wong Kar-wai, and if you guys aren't familiar with Wong Kar-wai films, you should definitely go watch them because they're extraordinary. But this is unlike almost any other film I've seen.
Yeah.
Just in the way that it's structured, just in
all those like stereotypical boxes.
Smashed. Yeah, it smashes through all of those stereotypes. It is telling a very simple story, but it is absolutely captivating and engaging. It doesn't give you any easy answers. It trusts the audience to draw their own conclusions about these characters and their lives. It manages to cast 6 perfect actors that you believe are the same human beings, though they are each so different because of what they've gone through. Every stage of their life is justified. This film deserves 100% the accolades that it's gotten, and I would say that it deserves to win Best Picture and Best Director.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you on Best Picture, and I can't wait for that, and Best Director too.
I mean, I won't be mad if Damien Chazelle wins, and I do think he will, because truly all of these are wonderful wonderful films.
Yeah, once again, hopefully people go and see them.
Yeah.
Because they've been nominated. Roth, Cornet, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining me. And we want to know what you guys think. Who do you think will win Best Director? Who would you want to win? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you soon. Bye. We'd like to thank our sponsor, T-Mobile. T-Mobile One is all unlimited, all in. Switch today.